All right, well, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in here and get started. Welcome again, everyone, to the Kentucky Monthly Climate Perspective on Drought and Hydrological Conditions. This is the February 2024 monthly webinar, so welcome again. And as always, this webinar series is presented by the Kentucky Climate Center at Western Kentucky University in partnership with National Integrated Drought Information System, NIDIS, and in coordination with the Midwest Drought Early Warning System. Production and delivery of this webinar reflects the contributions of many partners committed to serving the needs of the Commonwealth of Kentucky and its people. Our next regularly scheduled webinar will be this time next month, March 7th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Central Time. And this webinar is being recorded on YouTube and will be available for viewing afterwards. And there is an archive available at the Kentucky Climate Center YouTube channel. So let me jump in here. This is a photo from one of our new Mesnet cameras. This is in Jackson County, and a nice winter scene there. It's nice to see a little snow. I moved back to Kentucky back in 2022, and I don't recall seeing a whole lot in last winter. So it's nice to see some real snow this time around. So as always, we'll take a look at some recent conditions from last month, the impacts of those, and then we'll transition to looking ahead and the outlooks, and then a final summary and Q&A at the end. Again, on the left, there are a few more camera photos. We did have several nice sunrises, sunsets this past month, and those are two of those. And I think they're sunsets. I'm pretty sure they're sunsets, but we had some nice sunrises too. This is the Fayette County site and Caldwell County, and both on the same day. But we had some beautiful days last month. Nice snow cover. And I just had to put this up. The Kentucky Mesonet has a Twitter, Facebook pages, and we solicit weather photos from our audience. And this is actually our IT manager's mom is a photographer, and this is some of her work. I won't give out the secrets of how she produced these photos, but really fun winter Photoshop there. I mean, that's a real image and real bubbles that she created. So big kudos to her. I thought that was pretty cool. And to me, one of the most interesting things that we had last month was the AWOS station near Monticello, Kentucky, recorded a low of -22, which for that morning made it the coldest spot in the United States. As I understand it, that station sits in a bit of a bowl, so the cold air kind of just sank into that bowl and created that cold temperature. So cold air drainage there at that site. We didn't have any Mesonet sites quite that cold, but AWOS station, I think, was just in the perfect spot to capture that. So some cold cows there in that photo from the Mesonet site there in Wayne County. So, but they look happy enough, I guess. But a nice scene there. All right. Well, as everyone on this call remembers, it was a pretty up and down month. We started off with fairly warm temperatures. This is kind of a somewhat random breakdown of the temperatures and the anomalies for each week of the month. We started at exactly average. The first week was 34.1 degrees average, which is exactly average for that month of January. The second week, we warmed up a little more, so we were nearly 4 degrees above average. And then the bottom fell out, and we averaged 15.6 degrees for that week, which was over 16 degrees below average. And then once that cold air moved back north, then we rebounded in a big way this last week and a few days with an average over 41 degrees, and which was 7.5 degrees above normal. So now, looking across the Mesonet, these are the lowest temperatures each station recorded during the month. And you see lots of negative numbers there, which again, we haven't seen since December of 2022. And not every site made it below zero. There were a couple of 1 degree temperature obs there, but for the most part, we saw most stations dipping below the 0 degree number, if not just for a single night. I know several nights were pretty close to that. So what does that mean for our average temperatures? Well, when you take the state as a whole, we actually were slightly below normal for the month, half degree below normal. We averaged 32.6 degrees for the month, which ties us for 52nd coolest out of 130 years. You look at the statewide map, and most of the state was below average. Lexington areas in the bluegrass region were right around zero, slightly above. The climate divisions 1, 2, and 4 were all below normal, but climate division 3, which is the bluegrass area, was 0.2 degrees above normal for the month. You look at the daytime highs, we were below average statewide, but areas in the northern half of the state were slightly above normal for the average lows. But overall, we were right about average, really, but slightly below average for the month, despite that up and down that we experienced. Now, looking back, including December, looking at our winter temperature so far, so including December, which was very warm, that still puts us at the 34th warmest winter so far. We were roughly 5 degrees above average for December, and of course slightly below for January, which puts us as the 31st warmest winter so far out of the 130 years of records. So it's been really 2 winters that we've seen so far, although overall it's been a fairly mild winter, especially when you subtract out that one cold week. So turning to rainfall, of course, the big news is the rainfall we've had over this last week. Very nice rain statewide. It's created a few problems here and there, but overall it's been very welcomed, and the ground's really soaked it up well. This is the 7-day estimates from radar, and you see a nice big swath of 2 to 3 inches. At least most of the state got at least an inch, and if not more. Go back 14 days, and you see almost everybody in the state, with the exception of a small area of South Central Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky, has seen anywhere from 2 to 4 inches over the last several weeks. You go out to 30 days, and you see a west to east gradient, areas to the west receiving quite a bit more, 8 to 10 inches. As you get to Pike County in Eastern Kentucky, you're looking at 2 to 4 inches. So quite the gradient there, and this will be a recurring theme. We still have some pockets of abnormally dry areas, but for the most part, these recent rains have really helped. And as we'll see, January was a nice wet month, the first we've had in 5 months, in several months. We go out to 60 days, 2 months, and again, you see areas of South Central Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky that have missed out on some of that rain, but overall, a nice recovery from where we were. And then going back 3 months, again, a few areas, South Central Kentucky, Far Eastern Kentucky, a few patches here and there in 8 to 10. Most areas have seen 10 to 15 inches over the last 3 months. So what does last month and this winter so far look like compared to the averages? Of course, this month, again, a very wet month overall. And the spatial map there in the lower left, you see that nearly all the state, with the exception of Far Eastern Kentucky, has seen above average rainfall, and some areas quite a bit above, especially along the Ohio River Valley, where you've seen up to 200% of normal for the month. You include December, which was dry, and you see that puts the state right about average across the state. Northern areas getting a little more, southern and eastern Kentucky quite a bit less, especially for Eastern Kentucky and south central Kentucky. But overall, still not bad considering where we were before the beginning of this year. And so, again, the monthly seasonal numbers. So for last month, or for January, we averaged 5.84 inches across the state. That puts us at 2 inches above normal, over 2 inches above normal, which is 157% of average. And that ranked this January as the 19th wettest January on record out of the 130 years. So very welcome rains. It couldn't have come at a better time, given the deficits we were looking at, and really some of the dire emergencies that several of our communities were facing. When we include December, which was dry, we come out ahead, roughly a half inch above normal for the 2-month period at 107%, which puts us as the 48th wettest out of that 130-year record. So good news overall, especially with these rains. So where does that put us on the U.S. drought map? The latest map released this morning shows us as drought-free for the first time in a while. Although, again, we still have those abnormally dry areas to the south central eastern Kentucky, but much improved over where we were even last month. Other areas of the country to the south still facing some drought conditions, areas in the upper plains, but both of those areas should be improving over the next several months. Again, looking at Kentucky, we do have these areas abnormally dry still, but we have moved out of drought, at least for now. A few areas that have been impacted, and thanks to Chip for this information, we do have several systems that are or were under water shortage advisories or emergencies: Olive Hill, Berea, Stanford, Campton. And we had several communities that were had problems due to water shortages due to the cold, causing equipment freezing. And I don't know if I can move this little bar. Ah, there we go. I can put that on the side, or I'll just move it around. A few communities that had issues: a Hazard, Bardstown, Clinton County, Albany, Marion, with multiple line breaks. One issue was that while we had the snow wasn't terribly deep in all areas, and so that cold could penetrate the ground temperatures pretty well, and that obviously caused some problems in some areas. So again, the very wet month helped alleviate our drought. Just over the past 4 weeks, we've seen a class change of 1, 2, even 3 class improvement, which is rare to see in a single month's time. And that just reflects the broader changes across this portion of the country. You see in the lower right map there, a big part of the eastern Midwest received quite a bit of improvement over this past month. In fact, everywhere east of the Rockies received improvement during this past 4 weeks. So very welcome improvement there, especially given the long-term outlooks we were facing from NOAA a month or 2 ago, with expected dry winter that we due to El Nino. Now, what has that done for our streams and rivers? First of all, the soil moisture, the satellite soil moisture is still showing a few dry areas, again, kind of highlighting what we've talked about: south central Kentucky, eastern Kentucky. Still could use some more rain. They're abnormally dry, but recovering. You look at the 28-day average stream flows, and you still, using the month average, we see there are quite a few fairly dry areas to the east and south, but then you look at the last 7 days and you see quite a bit of improvement there over with the recent rains. So I think those rains have helped a lot, and especially along that Ohio River Valley, where they've seen upwards of 200% of normal. You see actually quite high stream flows at this point. So a nice recovery there. Evaporative demand this time of year, looking at the 3 months on the right, we actually did have quite a bit of evaporative demand, November, December, but now no demand at all, and compared to the rainfall and that we have now. So we're able to replenish the soils, which is a good thing. And this is reflected in our mesonet soil moisture measurements. And I just randomly chose these 4 sites, but at all 4, you see the going back 3 months, going back to November, you see really at all levels. It's a slow process, but you see at all 4 of these sites across the state some improvement, both, of course, at the shallower levels, but also at the deeper levels. And the jigsaw pattern that you see there is we'll get a rain, it'll dry back down, but not quite as dry as it was before. And you see with each additional rain event, we see a little bit of improvement, and these last rains have really helped statewide. And it's shown well here at Graves County, where it's fairly dry at all levels before, and now we're really moistened up that soil column. But improvement at all 4 sites, which is nice to see. Storm reports from last month. We did have pretty much a widespread snow event across the state. We had a few thunderstorms here and there, a little lightning, a few spots, and a wind event on January 12th. It was straight line winds for the most part, with Pike County recording the highest wind speed at 66.8 miles per hour, but quite a few pretty high wind speeds, especially across areas of central and eastern Kentucky. Some pretty strong winds for January. Now, moving on to ag, not a lot to talk about in January, but as the folks on this call know, if you don't like the weather in Kentucky, just wait a few days, or in this case, wait less than a day. On the left is a picture from one of our cameras, mesonet cameras, at 8:15 in the morning, and nice snow cover. And during the course of the day, it warmed up nice, melted the snow, and just a beautiful scene there on the right. So, and nice. I'm guessing the soils had warmed up, and if you were watching the soil temperatures during some of these days, you saw a rapid warm up in the soils, and that really allows that soil water to be absorbed. So looking back at last year, just curious how 2023 ended and how the crops compared to previous years. 2023, for the most part, was good, but not quite as good as some prior years, but better than 2022. Here we have the corn and soybeans, and pastures ended pretty poorly because of the dry fall that we've had. And here are a few quotes from the USDA, the latest crop report. And it's stated that portions of the state saw some pretty poor yields in hay cuttings to end the year. And this, combined with the snow and frigid temperatures, have caused farmers to rely more on their hay stocks, with 44% reporting short or very short, which is a pretty low number. And then kind of related, the livestock conditions were okay, but the cold and winter precip contributed to a decrease in the livestock condition compared to previous months. So the cold did have an impact and continues to some degree. And winter wheat got off to a good start. No update since November, but it got off to a pretty good start back in November compared to some previous years. Now, looking ahead, looks like we're entering a pretty dry period now, at least for the next week. pretty dry for this part of the country. The rain should stay to our west and south, and with additional rain coming in from the Pacific. So the west coast will see quite a bit of rain, but dry in our neck of the woods. And going out a little bit further, the 6 to 10 day, the prognosis is continued warm weather, so a mild trend to start the month of February. And with rain moving in from the west, but probably looks like near normal conditions, maybe dry to the east, maybe some rain moving in the western portion of the state, but not a whole lot of rain for Kentucky in the 6 to 10 day outlook, so fairly dry. Now, beyond that, they are forecasting maybe possibly above normal chances for precipitation for the country in the 8 to 14, but at least for the eastern half of the country, they're predicting that will stay warm. So we'll see if that cold air can move east. There is some hint that beyond this time, beyond roughly the Valentine's Day, we could turn colder. But again, there's hints of that, but we'll see if that plays out. Now that's the monthly outlook doesn't necessarily reflect those that thinking. They are predicting that at least the northern half of the country will stay above normal, abnormally warm, and very El Nino-like. They are predicting that Kentucky and areas to the north remain below normal. Well, chances are high for below normal precipitation. And we again look at the seasonal outlook. It's very similar. This includes February, so February, March, April. Warm to the north, dry for most of Kentucky and areas to the north, wetter areas to the south and west. And when we look at the expected pattern that we should expect from an El Nino, it's exactly what they're predicting. It's warmer than normal for areas to the north, and drier than normal for areas in the Ohio, Mississippi Valley. And that's what they're forecasting, at least in the short term. Now, this is a year of transition, so we're transitioning out of El Nino into a neutral, possibly even a La Nina phase. And so the long-term outlook kind of reflects that. As we advance in spring, it's the seasonal precip outlook is somewhat uncertain. I have equal chances for us, but it really depends on how quickly we transition out of El Nino. And then as you move towards summer, the June, July outlook is actually above normal precip for us, which is becoming somewhat common. And then you go into the fall, and it's really equal chances across much of the country. And I think at that point it's really just how quickly do we transition to even a La Nina, or do we stay in a neutral phase? I think that will really determine our precip chances for the fall. And here is the latest prediction for El Nino. They are predicting that we'll transition to a neutral phase sometime this spring, especially by the April, May, June timeframe. We should be in a neutral phase. Already you're seeing the eastern sea surface temperatures cool quite rapidly, and we are transitioning fairly quickly. Now, this model is showing that we will be moving towards a La Nina again. So, but that's still pretty far out, and we'll keep an eye on it. And these are what we call the ensemble of models. Again, they're all pretty consistent in showing that we'll be transitioning out of this El Nino over the next several months, and sometime around maybe May or so, we'll be, well, even by March or April, we'll be transitioning into a neutral phase. And then through the summer, we'll be possibly even going into that La Nina. Now, what does that mean? Again, this is temperature anomaly. El Ninos are on the left, La Ninas on the right. For Kentucky, not a big impact one way or another on temperature. We're cooler than normal during the neutral phase, but during El Nino, or La Nina, where during the winter, our temperatures are above normal. Now, has an impact here is on the precipitation. And again, during El Nino, we typically see drier than normal weather here, which is what we've seen absent the last few weeks where we've gotten some welcome rain. And but La Nina, we see typically above normal precip. So again, we'll see this time next year if we're in a wet pattern reflective of La Nina. So stepping back, looking ahead on the drought outlook, this is drought removal likely. Well, that drought has been removed, although we're still abnormally dry in those areas. This is saying maybe we'll continue to stay moist, but we'll see. And then the seasonal outlook, not a lot of difference there. So the good news is they're not predicting increased drought or persisting drought in our area, which is good news. Now, I've been waiting on the updated fire potential outlooks. They still haven't posted the latest ones, but this map is from January 1st or January 2nd. And so they were predicting below normal fire potential for the Deep South this month. That's fine. But for next month, they actually predicted above normal fire potential for Kentucky, for most of, well, the western half of Kentucky. And same for April. So again, I think what you're seeing is the El Nino prediction playing into this based on those expected dry conditions over western Kentucky, the kind of the lower Mississippi Valley there. So in summary, after a mild start, we did have the Arctic cold air intrusion that gave us, in the end, a below average month temperature-wise. But overall, most days were mild to warm, and except for the cold snap, then mild to warm again. So if you count the number of days, we were usually mostly mild and warm, but that cold air really statistically made us a cold month. The good news was that January was wet and very wet. We had above average rainfall, over 150% of normal, and that combined with our low evaporation rates this time of year really provided some much needed stream and soil moisture recovery. Now looking ahead, NOAA is continuing to forecast a dry February, March, April, but that is dominated, I think, by expected dry February. And but I think that spring rain forecast is uncertain, probably dependent on the speed at which we transition out of this El Nino into a neutral phase. And again, I didn't show this, but some of the models are hinting at maybe a warm first half of February, followed by a much colder second half. If we can get a ridge to set up along the west coast, then we can get some of that colder air in Canada driven down into our area. But we'll see if that'll happen. So with that, I'll go ahead and stop, and we can take questions. The next regular scheduled webinar is March 7th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Central Time. And again, if you do have any feedback, feel free to reach out to me, Matt Dixon, who's online, or Chip Zimmer, who's also on today's call. And again, if you'd like access to prior months' webinars, they are available on YouTube. So thank you again for your participation, and we'll open the floor to questions.
Yeah, this is Kevin Jeffries from Oldham County. I have a quick question, or well, two questions, if I could.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. I accidentally muted myself. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, do you have a timeline of when the camera might be installed at the Oldham County Messenet location?
Oh, wow. Probably pretty soon. We don't have very many left to deploy.
Okay.
And let me get back to you on that. That's a good question. But my guess is it'll be within the month.
Oh, okay, great, great. And budget wise, state budget, are you all in pretty good shape, you feel, in the budget that you're requesting for to operate the mesonets across Kentucky?
Well, we do. We're very proud of the bipartisan support that we received, and you know that the support's really allowing us to build out the network, and you know our goal is to fill the gaps across the state, and every county that doesn't have a station, we'd love to put one there.
Mhm.
And so we're going to continue to reach out to a lot of those counties that currently don't have a station uh, to find a site host and find a location that kind of fills those gaps. So we're thrilled with the state support and what Kentucky's done for the Mesonet, and we're going to continue to try to return the favor and fill those gaps. And but we're thrilled with the support that we've received.
Great. And how many counties do not have mesonet sites at this time?
I think officially we have stations in 74 counties, and of
Okay,
course there are 120 counties. So we still have a long way to go, but we do have quite a few in the queue for this year. So we're
great.
pretty excited about the new sites coming up.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Matt, I know you have a class there as well. Any questions from your class?
I'm trying to get them to ask questions, but they won't. Can you believe that, Jerry?
I can believe that.
Unbelievable.
Any other questions or comments? It will be interesting to see how quickly we transition out of this kind of El Nino pattern, and if that cold air comes down, you know, later in the month. I've heard hints of that. I know the Louisville office put out some long range outlook information, and they mentioned this potential cold air coming down, you know, later in the month. But there are a lot of teleconnections, and how they come together and how they interplay is always kind of a fun enterprise at guessing what's going to happen. But we'll see.
I do have one more question if you have just a second.
Oh, sure.
What is the, do you have any idea on how the water levels out in Lake Mead and some of those large lakes out west are doing with the rains and those snows that are coming into the area?
Well, that's a great question. I'm going to put Chip on the spot. Chip, do you know the answer to that? I meant to look at the river levels. I was curious about the Ohio and Mississippi because I know they were low before all the rain. I know the Ohio's come up, but Chip, do you know about those lake levels?
He was talking about Lake Mead out in Nevada, Arizona. Um, Last I heard, they um last year they came up a good amount. I mean, they still have a long way to go, but they got them out of the danger zone. So that's why last summer and fall we really didn't hear about them because they're above those critical levels they were approaching. So I imagine if they get uh they're going to need more rain and snow, but if they can get another above average year, that would snow wise, that would really help.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I know the Intermountain West was pretty far below, and there's mountain snow totals there for a while. I think they've come up some, and I know this week should help them. So yeah, hopefully this week will help with that. Any other questions, comments?
I just looked up Lake Mead, still 156 feet below normal pool.
Wow.
So, but it's come up from last year. I'm trying to look here on the fly. It's definitely up about 25 feet from last year. So
Okay.
And Chip,
big improvement.
Chip, do you know about the Mississippi? I know for a while, late last fall, they were having transportation issues with the low water levels. I'm assuming that's come up a bit.
I was just looking at the map earlier, the National Weather Service map, and there's some flood warning down on the Mississippi now. So
Well, that happened fast. That's good. I mean, not good that there's
yeah,
flooding.
there's flood warnings between just north of Memphis and just south of the Kentucky border. So that section of the middle Mississippi's above flood stage now. So
Wow. Wow. Well, good. Well, that's somewhat good news, in a way. Yeah. Shows how far we've come in several months. Any other questions, comments? Well, next month will be Chip Zimmer presenting, and I needed to swap with him this month. So normally you would have heard Chip today, but I'll be out of town. Well, I'll be in Frankfurt this time next month, so I'll miss next month's webinar. But Chip will be here, and thank you again for joining us. And we will see you next month. So thank you again for joining.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.